Well, eyes are on India, especially this month with the G20 Summit happening in Delhi. And there are a lot of reports of all the preparations that are taking place across the city of Delhi, and how it's, some of our audience members have told us it's almost a COVID like lockdown in which movement is restricted. And more importantly than anything else, people are a little miffed about the fact that they don't have access to their regular food delivery systems. But there are other people in Delhi for whom the G20 summit has meant the loss of far more than your biryani delivery. There is the working class of Delhi who've either been shrouded by green screens because their homes are just unsightly, or their homes have just simply been demolished. As part of our association with Quint, my team at Beatroot and Quint have an association where we bring you stories from the Quint by speaking to their reporters. If you want more details on the story that we're talking about, you can take a look at the Quint website or the app. Also, for more news and information, download the Beatroot News app, which is the news app that my team and I put out the news on. Joining me today is a member of the Quint reporting team, Pranay Dutta Roy, who is the reporter who brought us this particular story. Pranay, thank you for speaking with me. First, I want to talk about the demolition drive. What are the various parts of Delhi in which this demolition drive was witnessed to begin with? When did it start?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Faye. And so, speaking of these demolition drives, they kicked off at the end of December last year, 2022, when India took over the presidency of the G20 Summit, just a few weeks after that. And they've taken place in areas such as Mulchand, Basti, and Yamuna floodplains. They've taken place in areas like Tughlakabad, Mehroli, and similar areas where either demolitions have already taken place or there has been a stay that's been ordered. However, eviction notices is something that's always been issued to these people in places like Mulchand, Tughlakabad, Yamuna, Basti, etc.
But is there a reason why, Pranay, you feel that this is connected with G20, or could this just be regular demolitions of illegal structures that the government normally conducts?
Look, so the government and the authorities have come out and said that it's either clearing encroachments, or it's for a beautification drive, or it's for protecting monuments, and the the Archaeological Survey of India gets involved and says it's for protecting monuments. However, the residents who we've spoken to, the people whose homes have either been demolished or are intended to be demolished, they've told us and they've alleged that it's, of course, because of G20. And this is something that we can note, that they've pointed out that a lot of the locations where these demolitions are taking place, they are in places where the G20 summit is either, it's taking place somewhere close by, or the leaders are going to pass through these areas. So, for example, when one of our reporters visited Pragati Maidan, where a demolition was ordered and then a stay was issued a few days later, he was told by children that Pragati Maidan is the main area where G20 is taking place, the main venue for the summit. And similar incidents like that. In Mehroli, leaders are scheduled to go for a heritage walk, and there were demolitions that took place there. In areas such as the Yamuna Bank and the Yamuna floodplains, there are areas that were said to be used only for travel and would be visible to foreign leaders and dignitaries. So that's how the people whose houses have been demolished, they believe that it's connected to G20 and to the summit, because it also did, while there were previous notes about encroachments and court orders from 2016 and 17 about taking these houses away, the procedure started only after India took over the G20 presidency.
Have you visited any of these locations yourself? What have the residents who've lost their homes told you about the manner in which these demolitions were conducted?
Right. So I personally have visited one of them, which is Tughlakabad, which was just for a recce. And however, our reporters, they visited some of these sites in detail. So our associate editor for News, Ishwar, he visited Pragati Maidan in February when the demolition was ordered. And over there, he spoke to, a 6-year-old girl who's wearing a G20 t-shirt and saying that I don't know where I'll be able to go to school after this. My parents are worried. And the parents itself, they've been living there for 27, 28 years, and they've been asked to leave within 15 days, is what they say. So we have visited a lot of these sites for our reportage. I personally visited a few. Rather, in the last few days, I've visited sites that were covered in these new green sheets and tin foil, coverings. all in areas that are said to be associated in some way to the G20 summit.
And what is the justification for the green covering that the government seems to have put across the city of Delhi?
So as far as I know and to my knowledge, there is it's all being done under the banner of a beautification drive. Under one banner of a beautification drive, you have murals that are coming up in places like Muchal, which are absolutely beautiful and are a delight to the city. But you also, in some places like Coolie Camp, which is in Vasant Kund, which is one of the poshest areas in New Delhi, which is somewhere I was this morning, the entire slum is being covered in green sheets. And the residents say that the residents, of course, they believe very strongly that it's because of G20. However, the authorities, they say it's because of a regular beautification drive.
So, Brian, can you tell us what's going on with street vendors? Because we understand street vendors had challenges in other cities where the G20 events were being held. But in Delhi, where that final big event is being organized, what's happening with street vendors?
So, street vendors in areas like Connaught Place, we've heard reports, and Connaught Place in central Delhi, we've heard reports of street vendors being asked to clear out, or media reports are saying that they're not being allowed to function between 8th and the 10th of September when the drives are happening, when the summit is happening. Over and above that, even in areas that aren't in direct proximity to the summit locations, we've seen street vendors lose their entire livelihoods because all they have is a small kirana shop, which isn't very large, and that's where their family of 4 or 5 live. Right? Just today at Coolie Camp, there was about a 70-year-old man, where all he had was a 150 square foot shop, where his family of 7 was surviving. And this is a man whose shop is being covered now completely, so it's not extremely visible. He's lost out on a lot of livelihood. So it's not just shops being destroyed. Of course, the destruction of property is inhuman, but more than that, these people, they are also losing out. They also are telling us that they're losing out on their livelihoods. Rakesh, who is the shopkeeper, he tells us that for the next 3 to 4 days, it's almost like he's being asked to become invisible and to stay behind his walls and not to operate, and he doesn't have a lot of savings. So of course it is pretty tough for these street vendors as well.
Right, Pranay, thank you so much for speaking with me and giving us an insight as to what's happening on the ground in New Delhi as New Delhi prepares for the big G20 Summit that will take place over the next few days. Pranay Dutta Roy.
Thank you, Faye. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for speaking with us. For our audience, if you want more information on the story that we just talked about, you can, of course, take a look at the website that Quint has and look at their app. And for more news and updates, do download the Beatroot News app, which is my app, where our aim is to put out all the news that's relevant to you in the most respectful and dignified way possible, in the least triggering way possible, so that you can be adequately informed without having to deal with any hate. Download the Beatroot News app as well. Thank you for watching.